love the sea, the coast path, the whole of creation. Now I feel the mountains are my friends and brothers. I need to walk on the Preseli.
It was absolutely covered a minute ago with cloud. It's changing by the second here.
Cofio bachan yn gwerthu fflat o fel am 400,000 o fel yn Llundain. Fflat. Oedd yn dy lawr fan hyn, oedd yn prynu ffarm wedi.
Here you've got the Golden Road running along the ridge in front of us. This is industry within sight of the Golden Road.
Shwmai. Iawn.
Now me and Daddy, we siarad Gymraeg in a teulu. We went to Greenhill where they didn't have Welsh at all. And that's what I was told. You've got to get rid of your Welsh accents, you've got to be anglicised, and you have to learn proper English.
Nawr ddar y pandemig, mae nhw'n gwerthu fel tân. 24 hours oedd wedi bod ar yr internet, a 20 o bobl y cash buyers eisiau fynd i fel e. 24 hours arall, when nhw eisiau 475 amdano e, a dim buildings o werth.
Ydy pawb yn clywed? Dwi'n mynd i ddefnyddio llais mawr os gallai. I'll use a large voice so that people can hear at the back. Hedydd ydw I, athrawes roces o Abergwaun. I'm a teacher and I'm a fishguard girl. Hedydd is not a common name. It means skylark. And being as I was born in the 60s, people take for granted, oh, her parents might be hippies. But if anybody really knows my parents, there's nothing further from the truth. My grandparents started an undertaking business from the Gwaun Valley, and my father was an undertaker for 40 years locally. So he got to know families very well, and there's nothing hippie-ish about him, actually. Na fi yw Hedydd. Dyma'r ysgol Llanallwydog, le dwi'n gweithio. Around 26 pupils, 2 dosbarth, just 2 classes. Ysgol fisi iawn. Y gymuned yn troi o gwmpas yr ysgol a'r capel o hyd yn Cwm Gwaun. It's still the case that community activity centres around the school and the chapel within this valley.
Clatch, 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 clatch y cŵn.
Diolch am y croeso cynnes a mae'n pleser bod yma. O'n i'n disgybl yn Ysgol Hermon o 1977 tan 84, fi'n credu. What I'm going to talk a little bit about is the effect education has had on the course of the Welsh language. You probably remember from March earlier this year, you filled out a census and you would have been asked what language you speak. The first time that question was asked, in 1891, about 55% of the population of Wales said they could speak Welsh. But maybe really notably, 30% said they could only speak Welsh. Today, we're talking about a situation where about 19% of the population can speak Welsh. There are still people on the census who say they can't speak English, but they are probably people making a political point. Why did that language decline? What creates that change? Now, many people will tell you education was key to that. They'll tell you the story of the Welsh Not, used in schools in the 19th century, not everywhere in Wales, but in some parts of Wales. A board given to a child when they were heard speaking Welsh in class. Sometimes it was put around their neck, sometimes it was put on their desk, sometimes they just had to hold it. And I suppose what I want to suggest is, actually that is not the reason why the Welsh language declined. It is more complicated than that.
Barod? 1, 2, 3. Ar ben y bryn, mae sgwarnog farach. Ar hyd y nos, mae'n pori.
Imagine how the Welsh Not worked. This is the school. We're in, 1850. You only speak Welsh, you're my children. I'm bilingual, but I'm not going to use Welsh because Welsh is the language of barbarians. We're going to learn English. I put some words up on a board and you repeat after me. And I might give you a book, and it might say, the cat sat on the mat. And I say the, and you say the. Cat, and you say cat. Sat. And after a while, if you do that again and again and again, you learn to be able to say, the cat sat on the mat. What does cat mean, sir? What does mat mean?
Chi eisiau gwrando I ddechrau? Okay. Listen so that you can get the gist.
So the Welsh Not is looked down upon by the government. It thinks it's a stupid idea. And it's used by teachers in a context where if you were late for school, you got beaten. If you hadn't polished your boots that morning, you got beaten. If you sneezed when the teacher was talking, you could get beaten. If the teacher just didn't like your father, you could get a clip round the ear for everything. When you read the stories of what education was like in the Victorian period, children are getting violently treated for all kinds of things. Being hit for speaking Welsh was just part of the bigger picture.
Yeah. It was absolutely covered a minute ago with cloud. It's changing with a second here.
I'll just get my umbrella.
One of my favourite memories to do with, thinking about the environment and things like that. Mrs. George always used to get us to do projects in school, for the Earth, right? So there was a science section in the Earth competition. So she got me, Sean Midway and a few others to do this experiment about snails, right? So we had snails in a tank and we were feeding them different coloured paper, and the experiment was to see what colour the dom came out the other end. And would you be surprised that the colour was the same that they'd eaten? So if they ate something green...
Preseli Heartlands 59 But pob un ffordd mynd wedi dros lefras wedi bod mynd.
A nath rhai dosbarthiadau mewn cyn y lleill, ynddo fe?
Do.
Feio nhw rhyw flwyddyn neu 2 blwyddyn cyn ni, do.
A oedd ddim yn chweched dosbarth na.
O na, wedi
ddim yn dechrau. A Prifar Jones. Wff.
Bwff. Right i bar boi.
Bachgen bach o gwlch y groes, heb wneud i waith cartre.
Ie ti. A gnoc ar y pen. Ie ti.
Ddim yn wneud na nawr.
Fi'n cofio hwnnw.
I always remember a Friday afternoon lesson in a school of Preseli over there. It was a history lesson with the redoubtable Muriel Bowen Evans. And she taught us on that particular afternoon, I was in the first year, about the huts, etc., and the Stone Age up there. And, we didn't take much interest. And she said, well, now then, your homework now then is to draw pictures of the stone huts, etc. Didn't take much interest, and she realised that, and she suddenly said, Drychwch lan fan co, ar ben fwyl Drygarn. Fyna o'n nhw'n byw. That's where they lived. Really, miss? Really? I mean, she had a way of teaching, making history pertinent to us, and it was local as well.
Shadow, figures, sky, long walks across the Preselis.
Mam, a'i merch, yn cerdded y gilydd.
You feel so insignificant.
Llwybrau tu ôl ac y llwybr o flaen.
The time that's passed, stories go round and round.
Briniau dywyll a chymylau llwyd.
History more prevalent as time goes by.
Llwybr byth yn gorffen. Cofiwch y pethau bychain, ni dim ond am spel.
Have you heard this is the ringing stone?
There's a stone usually that gets tucked around here.
Yeah.
And it gets struck
look
on there.
Usually there's a stone around.
When it rings.
Yeah.
So you can sort of understand why potentially early sort of investigation people thought this might be an area. When you see a lying stone like this, you can see where it would have come out. It's quite potential that people thought that this is where one of the locations were. And like we're just doing now, we're trying to knock on the rock to hear the sound it comes from. Because you have to understand that wonder of why it's still in Wiltshire. Why is it at Stonehenge? What special properties do these blue stones have, and why are they there? And that was maybe because of the sound that comes from them.
I think they're representative of the ancestors of the people around here. So effectively, you were moving your ancestors to the new social centre near Avebury. Oh, it's got a nice ring to it.
Yeah.
Squirrel. What on earth is he doing up here? Selling rock squirrels.
That's it.
Yeah, it was.
The only thing I would say, having seen people move stones, they love it. Because you get the show-off stands on the stone, much like I am doing. And then you've got ropes and lines of men on each of the ropes. And of course the guy's here and he's singing, he's chanting. And with the chanting, they're heaving. You know, I think in modern terms, it must have been for them like sort of a moon landing. You know, you're actually bringing, it's not just the community at A going to the community at B, it's everybody along the route. This must have involved thousands of people.
Gwynt, yn chwibanu dros y mynydd.
Wind whistles over the mountain.
I always wanted to get the sound of the mountain. And of course we've got the sheep, the wrach, the crows, and we've got the sound of nature, but we've also got the sound of the drums. We would have had drums here. The stones resonate. So as a drummer, I thought that what I could offer Cân y Ffordd Euraidd would be percussion and improvised music, which I love.
And why do they do it? One possibility is that this is them actually saying we're taking our ancestral symbols and we're planting them in this kind of really important place, because Stonehenge, although the monument wasn't there, we know that that was a very special landscape. And that's confirmed by the isotopes from the people buried at Stonehenge, because the first group to be buried there, for many of them in the last 10 years of their life, they'd come from this part of the world. So it looks like people came with the stones. The counter argument is that actually the people of Wessex came and took the stones themselves and maybe even made the local people carry them for them. I like the idea that the people of here actually brought the stones and resettled in the Stonehenge area of their own accord and took over from those southern English. But as a friend of mine said, it was the first Welsh invasion of England.
Dwi'n cofio yn ôl byti 1984 ffram. Dwi'n cofio gweud wrth mam a wadraidd gynnal gwyl roc ar y ffarm.
I heard that the Stonehenge, that we all knew about these stones, but now they're coming in their millions, and I mean it, and it feels frightening. Okay, I know it sounds a bit nuts, but it feels like we've been invaded. We have to mark that. It's not aggressive.
Just to look after what's here.
To look after what's here, the stones, the culture, the language, the people, the food.
Rwy'n i'r hew mewn achos cael bobl lan i'r ca. Thyn ni mewn a carreg fel la. O, mae'n chwyddi. Carreg. Carreg glas? Ie, carreg glas. Mae bobl yn meddwl bod hi'n canrifol. Miliynau o... O'n i bobl yn gweud bod, mae'r standing stone ma, o'n i'n mynd licio gweud wrthyn nhw mae, wel, do mewn ar lori man staff. Jes i fi gyd.
Rattle, is it?
Oh, yeah.
That's yellow rattle.
Yeah,
yellow rattle.
Amazing.
I'm not saying anything rude yet. Fact base. All right. Fact base. Fact base. That's what that is in Welsh.
The area that's covered by the Preseli Heartlands project is absolutely jam-packed with sites that are internationally important for their wildlife. So together they cover more than 4,000 hectares of countryside in this part of Pembrokeshire.
Rhaid I mi gerdded y Preselau.
Rhaid I mi gerdded y Preselau.
Crwydro ar y ffordd Euraidd.
Crwydro ar y ffordd Euraidd.
Am fy enaid sydd i'w meithrin.
Am fy enaid sydd i'w meithrin.
I'w iachau mewn ffyrdd henaidd.
I'w iachau mewn ffyrdd henaidd.
Wrth gerdded y Preselau.
Wrth gerdded y Preselau.
Gors fawr neu foel drygarn.
Gors fawr neu foel drygarn.
Llais yn canu gyda'r awel.
Llais yn canu gyda'r awel.
Llond llonyddwch ydw I fi.
Llond llonyddwch ydw I fi.
I'm from Preseli. It's sort of where my bones are, really. It's not just the landscape as in, oh, it's pretty views or whatever. It's that cultural landscape that actually upholds all of that. Without that, for me, it doesn't exist. The Preseli doesn't exist, basically. That's very important to me, the people, the characters, and with that, the language, the tafodiaeth, all of that identity, really, that sets us apart from, you know, that is our place, that is our identity as a place separate to other places in Pembrokeshire, in Wales and everywhere else in the world, really.
Gwna dy lwybr i'r Preselau.
Y lori lath churns o'r yn diwedd. Yn dechrau'n llwn draen, a ddim I lawr fan hyn rhyw filltir rown wedyn yn ôl I bentle llwn draen. A'r byn oedd hi'n ôl fyna oedd hi'n llawn o churns i'ch fan diwedd. Yn yr haf wedyn, oedd mwy o lath yn yr haf wedyn, oedd dwy lor un.
Gyda heddwch yn dy enaid.
There's a really beautiful way of how North Pembrokeshire people speak. There's a certain way that they pronounce words, as I was saying, you know, and even the differences between, you know, a few miles away from each other. So Cwm Gwaun will say something very differently to what Crymych would say.
Saeson, Drysgol Goch, Dolfini, Llanach Meidw, y Parc y Person ar y gwylod, Penrach Gych, a wedyn Cringa.
And yes, all of the stories, the myths, the legends that are woven into the fabric of our communities as well.
A Cwm Bach, a Penrhyw Castell, a wych chi'n ôl yn Llwndrain. Y ddoi eisiau rôl fyna lawr yn gwerthu tath fyna lawr.
This is another species in severe trouble now. The marsh fritillary has declined really dramatically in recent years. It has a very complex relationship with a parasitic wasp that's presumably even rarer than the butterfly is. So what happens is that you have a sort of boom and bust cycle of population growth and decline, purely naturally. You know, the parasite will increase in number, and then the butterfly will decrease as a result, and then the parasite decreases, and then you get these cycles.
Mae'r machinery wedi newid yn gyffredin iawn. O'r 50s mlaen, yn dweud. Chi'n dalan i'r 60s fyna, a wedyn fe ddechreuodd y tractors newid. A mae'r tractors I gyd nawr yn electronic I gyd nawr. Yna'r tractor gyntaf ddreifes I 1938 I wi. Mae'n siow condition nawr.
So what happens over the long term is that the butterfly has a metapopulation structure. So it has lots and lots of different sites where it lives that are all quite close, so it can fly from one to another. So what happens is that if you have a local extinction, then you can recolonise from sites nearby. So for example, in the Mynachlog Ddu area, which has been a really key area for the butterfly, there were 32 different sites where the butterfly was known. And this was 10, 15 years ago. Now it's only known at 8 of those sites. So it's getting to quite a tricky situation, really.
Be sydd wedi newid fwy o'r tir yn yr ardal hyn yw slyri. A mae'r slyri'n beth anghyffredin iawn i'r tir. Mae fe'n altro ansawdd y tir. Yeah. Ond wedi gweud na, wrth gwrs, mae'r hadau wedi altro wedyn. Yr had, chymod, hadau porfa yw i feddwl nawr. Y llafur hefyd, o'n i gwadwch gyda ni ma nawr. O'n i'n combeindo, ond efe, mae'n combaind a fi nawr, mae'na. Un o'r rai cynta hefyd.
The caterpillar feeds on devil's bit scabious. This tends to grow amongst quite a coarse grass called purple moorgrass, which can get very vigorous. It forms massive tussocks that can, get waist high, and so they'll overshadow the devil's bit scabious. Cattle and ponies are actually very good at grazing purple moorgrass, so they keep the tussocks grazed down, and the devil's bit scabious does really well, so the caterpillars have lots of food plant. But sheep are the opposite. They love the devil's bit scabious, and they really dislike Molinia, the purple moorgrass. So you have sort of the opposite effect happening if you've got sheep grazing.
Beth altrodd yr ardal hon yn gyfan gwbl oedd Saeson wrth gwrs yn dod mewn i chwyd.
My grandfather was actually from Birmingham, but he was a Jenkins, so he did have Welsh ancestry, and he moved to Pembrokeshire in the early 50s to farm, was able to buy a farm because land was incredibly cheap then. You wouldn't believe how cheap it was, and I think that's what I've sort of thought about as the project's gone on. Is it's also about my ancestry, or has, in terms of relationship with this place and feeling rooted.
My mother is a North Walian, and I always wanted to come and work in Wales, I think, always. And I wrote dozens of letters, and by chance, the people that took me on were farmers outside Whitland. So it was chance that brought me back to Wales, but choice that kept me.
Wrth gwrs, ardal Gymraeg, when i'n 84 o blant yn ysgol Bwlch y Gros, a wy'n cofio'r Sais cynta yn dwyna, o'r cwbl yn Gymraeg.
I think I felt more Welsh than anything else, really, although I don't speak the language.
My family on both sides are from this area, and when we were young, my mother and father, every Sunday, we would be all squashed in the back of the car, and my parents would take us around the Preselis to Wen up to Crymych, and Dad would call it Anialwch, and he would point out all the places that he'd been to, where his family are from. Mum and Dad would sing their hymns in the car, and we would spend all day wandering around, and pointed out to us, that's the mountains, there's the Preselis, these are your hills. And I didn't realise that all those years later that I would return here.
I grew up in an English-speaking family. My parents moved to Hermon from England as part of, I suppose, the hippie movement. But education gave me the Welsh language. But that worked because I didn't speak Welsh just in the classroom. I spoke it in the playground as well. I wanted our daughter to siarad Gymraeg, to be able to have the language for her children as well, my grandchildren. So I always yearned to come back. And when our daughter, Fionnuala, had to go to school, we came to my clochog, and she had singing lessons with Madeline Lewis, the famous Corner with the Undar Choir. And then she went to Ysgol Preseli and has kept the language alive.
Dwi wedi dysgu Cymraeg, dim Cymraeg ar yr aelwyd gatre da fi, ond dwi wedi dysgu fe a dwi'n defnyddio fe bron pob dydd nawr yn fy ngwaith ac yn fy mywyd, a beth sydd yn greiddio, what does root you in a place. So I think it's helped me acknowledge my Welshness or my right to be here. Yes. And spinning, mae'r byd yn troi, adar yn canu, bywyd yn newid, mas ar y mynydd, tywydd yn newid, mae'n dwyn.
I was born and raised in the Midlands, and I was brought here by an ex and immediately fell in love with the place. But I'm an incomer, I'm an outsider, so I have such a strong connection to this place, but I have no connection to it, if you see what I mean. So, and when everyone talks about history and their names and I don't have any of that, but I have this one link, which is just the landscape.
The Welsh language belongs to all of us in Wales, regardless of where we're from, but it will only survive if we all take ownership of it.
Wel, pnawn da i chi gyd, a diolch i chi gyd am ddod. Sawl un o'n chi sydd wedi canu'r darn? How many of you have sung it before? Beth ydw i am wneud I ddechrau yw canu'r peth trwyddo. What I want to do initially is to sing it through and see what I've got. Fe ddechreuwn ni o'r dechrau, fe ewn ni trwyddo o'r dechrau i'r diwedd, bracswch trwyddi gorau gallwch chi.
Roedd Waldo, wrth gwrs, yn fardd enwog iawn ac yn gysylltiedig ar ardal ma o ogledd Sir Benfro. Ac wrth gwrs, ar tang nefeddwyr, dweud hanes pan oedd Abertawe ar dan yn ystod yr ail ryfel byd. Dan gwych I ganu.
Well, diolch am ddod, croeso i'r daith bore yma. Thank you for coming. It sort of feels like a slightly momentous moment to be finally making the walk today. But I'm sure some of you have made this walk before, and it might be quite nice to know who has walked this path before.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
A dwi'n gwybod bod Hefin wedi wneud e'n aml gyda Cymdeithas Waldo. Ydy hwnna'n iawn?
Clychau Clochog, to remember the attempt to take over the mountainside in the late 40s by the military range, etc.
Heddw!
Ye men of Preseli, come forth from the hills, come forth from the mountains, like spring flowing rills. We need a boran here.
That's when you shout heddwch. So they're saying, our oes heddwch is their peace, and we would shout back heddwch, which is peace.
And love.
Dyfed's chieftains are calling from Crymych and grave. Ye men of Preseli, come forth and be brave.
Is there peace?
King Arthur's not sleeping, Carnabooth was right. In the throes of oppression, the hillmen will fight. Ye men of Preseli, brow-beaten and hard, the homeland's in danger, ye are the home guard.
Yes, yes, yes.
Do an Hollywood symbolic walk to remember that the people of the area won their battle, as if it were, and that we are able to walk across the Preselis these days. So I presume if you had taken over,
we wouldn't be here today.
There we are. All the farms would be
that.
empty, etc. Yeah. Think of the Epint, what happened there.
There's a plaque here, if I'm right, Hefin, and there's one on the other side, isn't there?
That's right, yeah.
So, in terms of good starting points or end points either side, it really gives people a good understanding, the visitors to the area, that the significance of the Battle of the Preseli, really.
We'd have been spray painting Cofiwch Preseli everywhere if it had come.
Yeah. Oh, there wouldn't be an ysgol Preseli, I shouldn't think so.
No, probably not.
No.
Led mainly by the ministers of religion at the time and the mishtir, the headmasters. Public meetings were held and feelings were high, and I think everybody, 98-99% were behind them, and the whole county of Pembrokeshire as well.
Yeah.
And I hear a distant noise, I think, which is something to do with the battle. Yeah.
It's Clychau Clochog.
Yeah, Clychau Clochog, ready to do battle. Yeah.
And love.
nid fach, cenel o'r hael i forwel, un funud fwy'n cenel o'r hwyr i'w hynt, i gofio am y pethau anghofiedig, a'r goll y nawr yn llwch yr amser gynt. Fel ewin ton a dir ar dreithau llinig, fel can y gwynt lle nad oes glist a gliw, mi wn ein bod yn galw'n ofer arnom, ein bethau anghofiedig dynol.
Dyma'r ddau gadfridog yn cyrraedd Rhos Fach yn y niwl a chael eu cyfarch gan Jo a Pari Bach am yn Tenwel. These hills look pretty barren. Byddai un cadfridog wrth y llall gan fod godre'r moelydd i'w gweld beth bynnag. Cymwn nhw ymlaen eisiau trafod nawr i bwriadau ag ati. Un funud, 1 minute, meddai Joseph James. My friend here wishes to offer a word of prayer.
The good news is we started together and finished together.
Wel, fe weddiodd Pari Bach te, fel tasa ddim wedi gweddio eriod o'r blaen, o'r frest, yn ei Gymraeg coeth gogleddol. 10 munud, chwarter awr, 20 munud, o ddim pall arno.
Gyda llaw o chi, siwr o fod yn gwybod hyn, ond mae'n 100 mlynedd ers i weld o farw. Felly, mae'n bwysig bod ni'n gwybod pwy yw'r dyn yma, sydd wedi sgwennu'r geiriau, ac wrth gwrs, mae Eric Jones yw'r cyfansoddwr ffantastig. OK, off ni to. 2, 3, 4.
Dyma'r ddau gadfridog ar medalau mawr yma'n ceisio ail gydion. Well, yes, thank you. Well, as we were saying, these slopes, they seem to be all right for grazing sheep, but of little agricultural merit otherwise. 1 minute. Mynte Pari Bach wedyn yn ei Saesneg clapiog. My friend here now wishes to offer a prayer as well.
1, 2, breathe. Right, stop. That lle bass, you come down, lle, tenor.
A dyma Jo yn bwrw arni wedyn, ac o ystyried i atal dweud diarhebole, fe oedd wrthi cynhired a'i gyfaill. Ar ôl i Jo gael dweud i ddweud a gorffen gweddio, mentrodd y cadfridogion am y trydydd tro, ac wedi cael ei bwrw oddi ar ei hechel braidd erbyn hyn. Well, yes, as we were saying, every farmer will be offered compensation. Yeah, they will be able to buy more fertile land elsewhere, no doubt. And, well, let's face it, these slopes are only fit to raise a few sheep and the odd calf. It will make an ideal training ground for our boys.
Breathe now. Okay. It doesn't matter what I'm doing here. If you don't look at me, it's useless.
Pari Bach roi pwt I Jo ac a dweud wrtho, deudath nhw wan, deuda nad magi wyn fyddan ni'n gwneud ffordd hyn, ond magi yn neidia. Gentlemen, my friend here wants to inform you that we don't just nurture lambs in this area, but we nurture souls.
I feel really, really emotional about this. My instincts as a composer and as a person who works on projects like this a lot I am feeling like all the experience of all the project and all the experience of all the strands of all your lives, I feel very emotional, comes together with us today in these 2 days. There's such a beautiful resource in this room. We've got our singing voices, we've got our instruments, and we've got spoken word. So we've got 3 sound worlds right here, right now. What's already really obvious is that you are flowing with music.
Being a child of a mixed marriage, mother Catholic background, father Protestant, a non-conformist family, I had thought that the 2 versions of Christianity were at opposite ends of a very broad spectrum. But Whitsun in Dinas proves me wrong, as the local Baptist chapel continue a tradition that dates back to the 9th century. It is known that the people of Pembrokeshire were very reluctant to give up their Catholic faith and kept a lot of the old traditions. Welsh hymns to Mary were used in Cardiffshire long after the Reformation, and although these were sung no longer, the Baptists in North Pembrokeshire still have punk. Canu punk, which is chanting, llafarganu, is an unusual sound and activity if you haven't experienced it before. My dad yn cofio mynd I Gaer Salem. Tua 1940, my father went to hear punk for the first time. Billy Bach, he started to laugh. And he was telling me, he's 86 now, and he was telling me this week. Wel, fe werthus a werthus o'n I ffeili stopo. Billy, pinch, my grandmother, giving him a pinch. Billy, hisht, 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 grut. Cer mas ag e. Take him outside for goodness sake, says my grandfather. And out they went. Well, in those days, it was a couple of slaps across the back of his legs to see if that would make him cool down. And it did, until he got back to the doorstep. Our wedding, it was all over again.
It's not soft and intimate and personal. It's right there. It's like if we're on the mountain and we're going, this is how it is, out. It's got a real drive to it.
Wine mound, my children run where yours ran. I feed my child where you fed yours. I walk the path where you walked. I breathe your air. I see your sky. I feel your sun.
What do you think about the Golden Road? I thought you meant the road that my mother used to call the Golden Road. You know the road from Clochog to Mynachlodd. She called that the Golden Road because it was full of laburnum. It was a road that was full of laburnum.
My instant thought of the Golden Road was, Mae'r, money, the fact that they were going along the drovers.
Yeah.
But it was the road to make money. But what was the other thing we had?
Yeah, so that was the Palmant Mae'r drovers idea, wasn't it?
Yes.
The one that I first knew about was that it was an ancient trackway and people were coming back and forward from Ireland
yes.
the road to the Golden Mines.
Wicklow Mountains.
Sorry?
We now know the gold didn't come from Ireland, it came from Cornwall.
Oh, right.
But there's a vast amount of gold in the streams around the Preseli.
Okay.
Really? You can pan any stream on the Preseli and come up with gold.
Gosh.
And Chris Standish from Southampton, I think he is, he's done some analysis of the gold artefacts from Ireland, and they're not Irish gold, they're primarily Cornish, but he also included in his analysis a sample from Brimburian, and it comes up with a match.
Wow.
So the possibility there might be some local gold involved.
So that
but there's a lot of work to do on it yet.
Yeah, but that might be something you think where the name may have come from as well.
In the late 16th century, it was known as the Fleming's Way. It wasn't known as the Golden Road then.
Someone else said the other day maybe
Was it you that said, or maybe it's when, you know, the sun shining down
on it,
onto it? Yeah. But I said sometimes it's pretty bloody grey. You know,
yeah, I can think of an alternative.
It's not golden.
You know, it doesn't have the same ring, bloody grey, does it?
No. Bloody grey road.
Arriving is like a change. You're after quiet and something different. The Preseli Mountains can give. And the air is full of life. Nature and history. There. Join it. Be on the mountain. This is a good feeling. Why is this happening to me? Must take it and hold it.
There was a chap that used to live in Brymberian, Sam Penwern Ddu, and he pretty much had a hardware store and clothes, and you go into his house apparently and it was like a treasure trove. He could get you any clothes, wellies, anything you wanted, you know. But he obviously hadn't been there yet to upgrade to the Wellingtons. Can you imagine walking along here in your clogs? With some rubs on the feet.
Because the clogs have got metal underneath, haven't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine getting those stuck in a bog?
Harmoni Crymych fan.
Okay.
O siop arbennig fan achol. O di ni o'n dod i'r siop na o de i'r gogledd.
Pwy fath o siop oedd hwnnw de?
Oedd hi'n fath rhyfedd iawn a wylech i mynd unman arall. Oedd pob peth oedd i gael bron oedd e gyda gwylym. Oedd y job oedd i gael gafel nhw e. Achos o'ch chi'n mynd mewn o'r siop, o'r chi ddisgwyl yr un arall o mas cyn cael lle fi mewn.
Oedd hi arret, oce.
A felly a ganol y llawr fi'n cofio beics, degedd yn gwerthu beics, chymod, push beics nawr, dy fe. A rheini a ganol llawr y siop. A wedyn oedd e cael llwyth lori o Wellingtons. A wedyn a ffordd nhw dadlwytho nhw yn agor y drws a bwrw nhw mewn trwy'r drws i ben y beics. Wel, o'r rhic o'r Wellingtons yn y canol. Os o'ch chi'n prynu Wellingtons wedyn, yr adeg ni we corden yn dyla'r ddwy Wellington at ei gilydd. Wel, os oedd y gorden wedi torri a chi'n ffindio Wellington i ffito, y broblem wedyn oedd cael gafel.
What time is it now, guys? Do we want to make our way down?
What were you going to sing?
Sing Calon Lan, surely?
Yes, Calon Lan, you can do.
Ni dwi'n gofyn bywyd moethus, a'r y byd, na'i berlau man. Gofyn rwyf am galon hapus, galon onedd, galon lan. Calon lan yn llawn daioni, teg a rhyw na lili dos. Dim ond calon lan at canu, canu'r dydd a chanu'r nos.
Come from Ivelwen, and 1897 I think my great uncle emigrated to Kansas to work on the railroads along with another brother and a friend. After they'd earned enough money, they sent back for their Welsh girlfriends, one of which is the ancestor of the Globe, of the James family of the Globe.
Oh, really? The pub here is the Globe.
You know, they come back, they need to find their roots, they come back here, and one of the generation below me, she had to come back and she had to hear these sounds of her forebears, she said, the language, and she had to walk the road, part of the Golden Road we took her on, and she said she just had to touch the soil where she came from.
Gair byr am Thomas Rhys arall, sef Cwm Carnabwth. Na, doedd e ddim yn heddychwr, ond mi oedd e'n ymgyrchu dros gyfiawnder, fel y beca cyntaf arweiniodd y fyntau I ddymchwel tollborth Efel Wen yn 1839. Dyma un disgrifiad ohono fe gan yr athro David Williams, athro hanes Cymru yn Aberystwyth a brodor o Llancewn fan co. It is said there had been difficulty in finding women's clothes large enough to fit him until he succeeded in borrowing those of Big Rebecca, who lived in the neighbouring parish of Llangolman. From that day to this, the name Cwm Carnabwth has been inseparably associated with the Rebecca riots in popular tradition, but the truth is he played no further part whatsoever in them, nor did any subsequent riot take place within 8 miles of Efel Wen. Ond dwi am ddweud wrthych chi bore yma'n swyddogol bod Twm wedi cymryd rhan mewn mwy o ymosodiadau. Ie, dyma mae E.T. Lewis, a mae E.T. Lewis yn honni bod e'n llinach Twm. He had a deserved reputation as a pugilist, and on one occasion lost an eye as his antagonist, a hawker called Gabriel Davis, was more weary in the consumption of intoxicants. Yet he had some cultural interest, for traditions of his knowledge of old notation remain, and his tenor voice was in demand at the local Sunday school festivals. During the later decades, he was apparently genial and more devout.
Right, tenors and bass. Bar 49. Ke, 3, 4, 1. Cenedl dda a cenedl ddw, dysgen trwy mae rhydd yw I hyn. Carry on golau
My children run where yours ran. I feed my child where you fed yours. I walk the path where you walked. I breathe your air. I see your sky. I feel your sun. I catch your breeze. I smell your heather. I touch the stone you left for me. I am you.
Mae'n o'r ni'n ffrindiau. Mae'n o'r
Ych chi eisiau dod mewn i'r sgubor?
Wel, dyma ni te, dyma ni ddiwedd y daith am heddi, sgubor Glyn Seithman, barn at Glyn Seithman, the Valley of the Seven Stones. Cwm Carnabwth, well, stone's throw over there, we just come from Carnabwth. He was on home ground, wasn't he? Just use the imagination. The debates in here might have gone on for hours, shouting each other, we'll do this, we've got to do something now. No, bach o bwyll nawr bais bach, some of the old guys would say. But apparently Twm would say, no, we must decide on a date now, and we must go together. How many of you will come with me? So it was decided. The hero was made. Well, I mean, this place hasn't changed all that much since 1839. I think some of the dust is still here since 1839. So that's it. I mean, the hardship of the times, landowners were forcing them to pay higher tithes, etc. When a toll gate was put up there, well, that was it. They had to pay to go through it to fetch lime from the other side of Narberth and pay on the way back again. So they eventually burnt it down, erased it to the ground on 3 occasions. Thomas Bullin, and he was a tollkeeper farmer. He owned toll gates all the way from London to Bristol down along South Wales.
Un ochr y drws a fi ochr arall. Wel, pwy sydd yn gofyn a gorw ni wedyn? Wel, gorw ni wedyn, ni rai sydd yn gofyn a gorw ni wedyn, efalle.
Ond rwy'n agl yn nostr, i ddisgwyl ar flwyddyn newydd mewn.
Can i cael ennig o, ia?
O,
Mae'n traddodiad mowr. Gofio beth syniad. O'n i'n mynd am y cynta. O'n i'n mynd i... Cwm George yn byw? Cylgwyn. O'n i'n mynd draw ni. O'n i'n trio bod yna'n gynta, achos dim ond i'r rhai cynta. O'n i'n rhoi arian. A o'n i'n rhoi lot yn y... A fi'n cofio mynd am y cynta, beth o'n i'n sawl gwaith, fi a Ifon, a Ann yn gynnyffer, a Wyn wedyn gyda Ifon, achos fe oedd yn trio. A ni'n pedwar yna oedd y cynta. Fi oedd y tywalla ohonyn nhw, a dim ond fi oedd yn cael ei mewn i'r tŷ.
Dewch mewn ond bihafiwch, dim dwlu nawr cofiwch, dim dwlu nawr cofiwch, dewch mewn ond bihafiwch, dim dwlu nawr cofiwch, rhen fechgyn, a wedyn agor y drws a dwi'n mewn i chi. The Julian calendar was abolished controversially in 1752 and replaced with the Gregorian calendar, which was approved by the Pope. The people of the Gwaun Valley resisted the change, thinking that they'd lost 13 days of their lives there. So why celebrate once when you can celebrate twice? And that's what we still do here. Hyn galan blwyddyn newydd, January the 13th in this valley. The children go from door to door, they get a day off school, singing and are given calenig in return. And the calenig is normally sweets or money. And they have a good time, and there's no way they're giving up this tradition anytime soon because they do very well.
Mi'n gofio yn mynd wedyn, un flwyddyn, yn mynd rownd. A sa'n bod siwt benne sy'n angen neud hyn. Ond sy'n gyda meic bach am rawd Jack. A eithon ni bribyn pan oedd y gwyddau yna. Gordon? Gordon Esteil. A eithon ni mynd i a canu tu fas. A di awsa'n credu oedd syniad ag e beth o'n mynd ni. Oedd ddim syniad ag e, achos oedd yn newydd yr oda. A di awd mas yn drill efo gwrs i chi. Get out of my way, all right, fire. Fach da, nethon ni sgydadlan i hwnna, sy'n gwybod.
Beth rhaid yn eglir, oedd o?
Na, o'n i'n eisiau trio aros i ffindo mas.
Mae dydd Calan wedi gwawrio, dydd tra hynod yw hi gofio, dydd i roddi, dydd i dderbyn, yw y trydydd dydd ar ddeg o'r flwyddyn. Rowch yn hael i rai gwael, rowch yn hael i rai gwael, rai sy'n ffyddlon i roi roddio.
I need to walk on the Preselis, take a stroll on Golden Road, for my soul's in need of nurture, it needs to heal in ways of old. As I walk on the Preselis on Gwm Gwaun or Foel Dragon, my voice sings with the wild wind, though my thoughts are still and calm. Once I've walked on the Preselis, I rest a while in Bessie's bar, where I drink in the old ways, my compass set to guide me far. So make a path to the Preselis. They say there's gold in every stream, but with peace in your own soul, you will find diamonds in your dreams.
It needs to heal in ways of
Right, both feet on the ground, 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's no good. Jiw, steddwch lawr to. Gyda'n gilydd, 1, 2, 3. Oh, fabulous. Right. This is it then, Paul. Whew. I'm very grateful to you all. It's been lovely. Nice to have a sing, isn't it? Right. Okay, Ted, dyma ni.
Neu yn yr ardal agos mae chi wedi bod eriod?
Ie, eriod.
A ffarmo chi wedi wneud?
A wedyn yn tyrlleinol o tychol o'n i'n canu ar ei lle yn dweud. Dechreuais i gyda W.R. Evans yn yr ysgol Bwlch y Groes, ydy fe? A wrth gwrs oedd e'n sgrifennu penillion a boes y freni. A o'n i gyda boes y freni yn 10 mlwydd oed. Ware piano cordian o'n i'n neud, a mouth organ. Fes i da nhw hynny cant o broadcast o Abertawe.
Chi wedi cadw'r recordings na i gyd?
Sim un o'n nhw gael o gwbl. Achos o'n nhw'n dod mas yn live, practis per awn, a wedyn oedd yn dod mas yn live. A sy'n record i gael o'r boes gyntaf o gwbl.
Ydych chi'n ffeindio'r amser i wneud y canu a'r cyngerddau yma i gyd
Wel,
a ffarmo hefyd?
O, oedd ni yn broblem. O, oedd ni yn broblem o gweud y gwir.
It's been huge for me, the Song of the Golden Road. It's unleashed a massive creative force. It's what to do with it now. And it's to be together with community. And it's about love. And it's about peace and love. It's about heddwch a chariad.